Yes, it's live on YouTube and also recording is on. Thank you. You can start.
All right, thank you. Thank you so. Very good evening, everybody, all of our volunteers. Very good evening, uh, Ms. Sheenam, ma'am, who is with us. Warm welcome to all of you to this training of effective communication. Now, so what is about effective communication? How is it that same words spoken by different people in different ways produce different results? Have you ever wondered? Now, this session is about how to make your communication powerful, influential, and effective to bring about the desired results. What are the aspects that can be worked upon to ace your communication game, right? Because words make stories happen. Now, let's make our story a success story with effective communication. And who is with us to have this to give the special speech, special lecture on this topic. We have with us Ms. Sheenam Dhingra, who is a national level speaker, debater, poet, and a leadership coach who has exceptional ability to think critically and express consolidated arguments strategically. She has eminent writing skills and a very strong verbal communication skills. She is a budding trainer who spent so much time on stage that she decided to train people for the same. Being a university color holder, a poet, national level speaker, Sheenam is particularly good with people and punchlines. So over to you, Sheenam ma'am. Thank you so much. Please continue.
Thank you so much, Akhil. Thank you so much for this warm welcome. And I hope my audio is clear and you can all hear me
Absolutely clear.
perfectly. Right. Great. Great. Amazing. Okay. So happy evening, everybody. I am Sheenam, as he just said. And now today's session is dedicated to aspects of effective communication. How do you make your communication effective? Now, there's this thing is very, very general that what happens is that wherever you go, the first thing is that you have to communicate with people. It might be verbal, it might be non-verbal, but you have to communicate with people. So with this, I'll just start screen sharing. Yes, I hope you can all see the screen.
Yes, ma'am.
Right, perfect. Okay, so as I was talking about aspects of effective communication. So the first thing that comes into your mind is that why is communication so necessary? So just let me clear this out to everybody that you see, communication is something that you can't prepare in like a week or a month. People usually come up to certain trainers, certain coaching mentors and all, and they say, we have an interview in a month and tell us how to represent ourselves and tell us how to express ourselves. See, communication is a lifelong skill, and you will have to keep working on it very, very consciously and with a certain amount of awareness. And then you will be able, while communicating yourself, like it's a skill like driving, as a matter of fact, because you see, you don't learn to drive a scooty or a car just because you need to go on a particular place at a particular time just at one day. It's sort of that you use that skill for however or how much ever you want to use it. And same goes for communication, right? Communication is a skill. You can upgrade it, you can downgrade it, depending on the circumstances, depending on the occasion, depending on how you will be evaluated, or what is it that you want to express, and what is the purpose of that communication. So now coming on to what is effective communication. So you see, effective communication is the process. Just a second. Yeah. Effective communication is the process of successful transmission of the message from the sender to the receiver. Now, if your receiver is able to receive the message just as you wanted him to, you obviously are a successful, a powerful communicator. whatever the speaker wants to convey, if that has been conveyed to the receiver, you're obviously successful. Now, this is a little flowchart to understand the flow of information. You see, you encode a certain message. You encode a certain message not just with words. Mind you, ladies and gentlemen, it is not just words. It is your tone, your throw of words, pronunciation, enunciation, your volume, your pitch, all of it, and your body language, the non-verbal aspect of it, that mixed with the kind of words that you use, that with that you encode a certain message. The sender, here as you can see, the sender, he encodes this message and he sends it across to the receiver. Now the receiver has to decode this message, right? Now I'll give you a very small example. You see, it's not just what you say, or it's not just what you want to say. A lot of things can be made out just by your expressions, just by your body language, and that's how communication works. And it is not just for an interview or for a session or for, I have this speech or this group discussion that you work on your communication. You will have to communicate. There's no two ways about it. You have to communicate. Now here comes, how do you decode that message? In that decoding, now for example, I have to carry 6 books in a bag, right? Now it depends upon, that bag won't change. You have to kind of keep it in something and you have to send it across. Now I can keep those books in a very haphazard manner, or I can keep those books so strategically that as they are narrated, the bag will keep unfolding. So obviously, if I keep it very systematically, the receiver is, going to feel ease while using those books or while opening that bag, right? Now, if he opens that bag and 6 books, they just fall on the floor flat, there's no point of it, right? So you are kind of ditching the use of that bag. You define the purpose of that bag, and this is how communication works. Now, words are a plain field. You just add contours to them. Now, there are certain other components of communication process, which is the channel. Now, like we are now interacting through an online medium, a virtual medium, right? Now, if we would have been in physical vicinity of each other, definitely things would have been a little different. So, in that way, your message changes. Your mode of communication, the agency of communication, it changes so much around. Then comes the context. Is this a friendly meeting? Is this a get together? Is this an interview? Is this a group discussion? Is this a business meeting? So that changes the whole context. It changes the whole vibe of the communication. That scene, it is all determined by the context. Then comes perception, a person's understanding or interpretation of a particular event or message. I'll come on to this later. Then comes purpose. Purpose is very, very important. You see, you need to know what is it that you want at the end of a certain conversation, and that will align how you use the conversation to go to your desired result. I'll come to this later as well. That how do you use words which are very similar? Everybody has more or less, same kind of vocabulary. We use the same kind of words every day. Now, I'll give you a little bit of an example here. Just when Akhil started and he said, "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen," right? So when you say good evening, that's very general because we think that's the common code of conduct. It's how everybody greets everybody. Good evening. But when I started, I said, happy evening. So words, they kind of decode, they kind of encode certain emotions into you. Why did I say happy evening? Because I wanted you to feel happy. Here, I would like to come to, how taglines of brands are made. Words are so important. They're so crucial and they're so instrumental in brand values. For example, for McDonald's, there's this tagline which is attached, I am loving it, right? So why is it that this particular brand is using this particular word because they want you to feel a particular way. Now, that is their purpose. So, that is how I will start using this conversation. That is how I will decide and use these words. So, there's a certain strategy involved which comes naturally and effortlessly as you keep on communicating and interacting with different people. And then comes barriers, obviously. Now, definitely, we have a barrier. I'm staring into a screen. I've been doing these sessions for so many years. I've been interacting to people. I am so used to, standing on stage and speaking. And now I haven't, stepped onto a stage for what, 6 or 7 months. So, this is a sort of a barrier, but then it's also an enabler. We don't, we can't deny that fact as well. Certain other barriers. For example, now if my audio, after a certain while, if I'm, inaudible, or if I'm not visible, if you don't see me speaking, that will be a barrier because you won't be able to see what are my expressions, what are my gestures, right? How am I saying what am I saying, right? So these are important components of the communication process. Now comes the juicier part. Three fundamental questions. First, why do I need to communicate? Like there are people who just very easily say, "Oh, I am a very reserved person. Oh, I am an introvert. I can't talk." Well, that's fine, but you still need to communicate. So, why do I need to communicate? How to communicate and when to communicate. So, the next 35 minutes, we are going to actually find answers to these three fundamental questions. Now, the very first question, why do I need to speak at certain times? Why is it important? So, just tell me, what is it that is done when a child is born? Just as an infant is born, he is made to cry. He's made to cry consciously because we want a response out of him, because we want to know if he's responding to certain situations. So you, my friends, are all born communicators. Please understand that we are all born communicators. It is expected out of us that we need to communicate, and it is our natural human tendency that we have to communicate to send across a certain message in a certain way. So we're all born communicators. There's no doubt about it. So, since you were just born into the world and you were told to cry, that was your way of communication at that point of time. But luckily, now we all have words to listen to and use. So now we have a better means of communication at hand. So I'll tell you how to use that. Now, what are some common inhibitions? People, since I interact with a lot of people on a day-to-day basis, at least before the pandemic outbreak. This happened, that people used to say that, I feel I don't have anything different to say in a conversation, or I feel I don't, this can go wrong. Whatever I say might be taken in the wrong sense, or people might not be interested, right? Or maybe what I say is not as funny as I think it is. It might not be as important as I think it is, which are very valid questions. But you need to understand that the edge that my idea has over your idea is that I put it into words. I put my idea out, and that is why it is up for all sorts of absorption, for reception. It is up for all kinds of scrutiny, for all kinds of criticism. But I am expressing myself so much better when I do it using words. So you need to communicate at certain times. There's no doubt about it. Now, how do I do it, and how do I work on these inhibitions? Now, see, just as I've written, the most powerful change will come through communication. Have you ever, just go back in just flip your pages of history and see if there are any leaders who weren't good orators or who weren't powerful communicators? That does not happen. You cannot be the CEO of a company and be reluctant while communicating to your team or your clients or your business partners. You can just not do it. And the best part about communicating, the best part, mind you, is that communication will build your USP, your unique serving proposition. See, everybody has a different style of using words, a different style of stringing them together in a certain narrative and using them. And that is your unique serving proposition. You see, every brand has a USP, right? You won't take you won't be interested in buying a brand or in trying out a certain product which is not different, which is not unique. So the way you use your communication, the way you use the words that you know, the way you use your non-verbal gestures, your non-verbal aspects of communication will make all the difference. If five people are sitting in a room and I happen to crack a very funny joke, so obviously, I am the hero. Everybody's going to look at me. And that is exactly how communication works. And also, you just can't get rid of communication at any point of time. I'll just share a very little anecdote here. I am 5 feet. I must clear this. I'm 5 feet. And I was once, I had a session somewhere and I was told that, are you 18, are you above 18? Are you over 18 years of age? And we don't think that you can go for this session. And I said, well, sorry to disappoint you, but I am taking this session. So, and certain times, I am not visible behind the podium. So I go, ladies and gentlemen, I know you can hear me, but I'm pretty sure that I'm there. So please be relieved. There is somebody talking to you. You might not be able to see that person, but there's still somebody talking to you. So this is how communication happens. So what I was about to tell you is that since I'm short, so I went to a function and this lady comes up to me and she says, "Oh, did you try skipping a rope?" And I said, "Wow, that idea never came to my mind. I mean, wow." But I said, "I think it's too late. I am 23." And this woman goes, "Well, then you should get married." And I said, "Well, I think it's time I hang myself with that rope then." So, the thing is, you are judging people all the time. Now, while I am speaking, also, you're agreeing with me, you're disagreeing with me. So, even if there is no exchange of words between us, or I can't even see your faces right now on these small little screens that are on my laptop. I can't even see your screens. You might be chuckling, you might be playing a game. I don't know. So the thing is that there's no communication happening directly, but still there is certain interaction which is going on indirectly. You may be judging me, you might be agreeing with me, you might be finding me relatable, unrelatable, right? That is all up to you. But there's this communication happening for sure. But since you did not put it out, I will never know what you think about it, right? Now coming to lack of confidence. How do I conquer these inhibitions, this reluctance that I have? Now, people say, "God, I'm fearful. God, I have stage fright. God, I am nervous." So please understand that anything substantial that you do, it is going to scare you at first. You're going to be afraid of certain choices because you know they're important and you know that they will definitely change your life in certain way, and they will enrich you, and they will they will enrich you, and they will affect the people around you, right? So that is why we say nervousness is just excitement with a negative connotation. You're going to be fearful. You just need to focus on your breath. Be cool about it. Take it easy. The first and the foremost thing is envision yourself as a powerful communicator. Have this conviction, have this confidence into yourself that yes, if I say something, they matter and they will make a difference eventually. If not to anybody else, they will at least make a difference to my own self. Right? This is your stepping stone. That's why I've written start the process with your own self, and mirrors will come handy here. Right? If you're too scared to step out into the world and open, open out, right? Open up about your views, about your opinions, so you can practice and you can rehearse in front of the mirror. You will strike a conversation that happens maybe 20 to 25 times in a day, while we are locked in our rooms also, we are locked in our houses also, we are still talking to an average of 3 to 4 people every day, and that is your stage for now. So you can practice the skill, you can rehearse the skill, right? You remember when you started riding a bicycle, your father used to maybe hold you from behind, and and then you eventually started balancing it, and then you ventured out. That's how it happens. So your home is your stage. Now, start small but keep going. See, just as I told you, communication is a skill. You need to keep on working on it. And you will kind of, it's like makeup. It's legit like makeup. For example, if for the ladies in here, if there are any. So what happens is, if I need to go to the office, I'll use a nude lipstick. And if I want to go to a party, I'll just, kind of switch things up, and I will revamp things up by maybe putting a red lipstick on, so that I feel that that party vibe, or I feel beautiful. So what actually that is doing is that the other person who sees you, or when you see yourself in the mirror, you feel you have put in some effort. And that is exactly communication will help you do it. For example, if I go somewhere now, if I have come into this session, right? So while I am presenting this pp which has been exclusively designed for this very session, what this shows is that I have used certain words aligning with the purpose of this presentation, right? And this shows that I have put in some effort. So just to make the other party, the receiver, feel valuable and feel important, feel valued, that is where communication comes in, right? So, and also, mistakes won't matter while you're preparing yourself. You will definitely make mistakes, and that is how you learn. And it's very natural. So take it easy. Do not take it on your ego that, I stammered there, oh, I stuttered there, oh, I just had a very awkward pause somewhere. It's very natural. We will do such things on stage. We will commit all these sorts of errors, and it's natural and it's okay. So you can allow yourself to make such mistakes. Decide onto a destination. What do I mean by that? That definitely you see yourself as a certain kind of a communicator. That can depend on your personal choices, that can depend on the kind of a career that you're into, a kind of a vocation that you're into, or the kind of a career that you're looking into going. So you need to align your communication, your style of communication, with that destination. There must be people that you idolize in certain senses. So look out, look at people, observe, analyze how do they speak, and who is it that I want to speak like. You can definitely have certain goals in your head, that I want to speak like this person. I want to have an effect just like this person has on a certain kind of an audience. And then you can start consciously working on that sort of a communication. You can start working on articulating, on inculcating that sort of a communication style. And you will have to wait for your own style to emerge. That happens with years of age, with years of experience. That happens with a lot of interaction, right? Now coming on to, yes, now this is your mantra. Fake it till you make it. Speaking is what you say. Speaking is what you say and what you do not say, and how you convey both. Again, the verbal aspect of it and the non-verbal aspect of it. So, how do I use my body language? Hello. I think there's someone. Please,
Please continue.
all,
Please, I have muted
please
him.
mute
Please
yourselves.
continue.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Akhil. Yeah. So
Yeah.
then comes body language. You see, when you enter into a room, if you greet everybody with a smile, or it is your gestures, it is your facial expressions, the way you walk, the way you have, dressed up, that all is the first impression that you're making onto your audience. Now I'll give you a little example. If there's this captain, some pilot, some captain, somebody in the army, and you just see them in their uniform and everything, you greet them in a certain way. You'll say, "Oh, hello, captain." Or maybe if there's a doctor with a white coat on, you will, say, "Hello, Dr. Saab, how are you doing?" And if that same doctor, if you wake up tomorrow morning and you go for grocery shopping outside, and that same doctor is standing and he's buying vegetables, you won't feel like calling him a doctor at that point of time. You'll maybe probably say, "Hello, uncle," or whatever. So that is how dressing works. People do take you seriously if you're dressed according to the occasion. So that also comes into handy, because that is the first, your body is the first thing that comes into contact, and that decides the whole spirit of the room. The whole vibe of the room is decided upon that. Because before you open your mouth, 75% of the work is done just through your posture, just through your hand movements, just through your expressions, just the way you greet somebody without saying a word. That decides a lot of things. So we need to work on our body language. That is why I've written body language is the key. See, non-verbal communication, which is also known as body language, it forms the difference between the words people speak and our understanding of what they are saying. So, best thing is greet people with a smile. It works like a charm everywhere, every time. Have a very powerful posture. Your shoulders. You must be drooping. Your back should be straight, and you should look active. When somebody looks active, you feel like talking to them, because you feel that what I am saying will be received by somebody actively. So you should look to be active, right? Now, open body. An open body posture, by what I mean in an open body posture, is your hands must be out, your shoulders must be back, right? And your neck must be straight while, during a physical interaction, mainly. If you have your arms crossed, right, or if you have your hand over your mouth, why would somebody want to talk to you? You already have a hand over your mouth, so that means you don't want to talk, right? If I am very very excited to greet somebody, I won't do it with a hand on my mouth, right? That does not happen like that. So your body posture, or your hand movements, or your expressions, they say a lot about your intentions. And the moment our intentions have been decided upon, have been judged upon by the other person is going to treat you in a certain way. And that conversation is going to go in that very spirit. Now, maintaining a comfortable posture. What happens in interviews is people, sometimes they seem so fake at certain points that they'll sit a certain way, and the moment that they're getting a little intimate or a little cozy in the interview, right? So their posture, they can't sustain it because it's not natural to them. So you have to maintain a comfortable posture. You just don't keep shifting your posture again and again. Your glances should be very comfortable. That is another thing. Your glances should be very comfortable. It should not make the other person conscious, but it should also make the other person feel valued at the same time. And also, do not interrupt the natural flow of the interaction. Now, for example, I'm speaking just as I was speaking, and I could hear some disturbance. So it obviously kind of that interrupted me for a second, right? So do not do that. That kind of breaks the natural flow of the interaction. And also, you do not have to sound overconfident or arrogant while talking. Courtesy, that is one of the 7 C's of communication. We're going to discuss it further. Courtesy is very, very important. Also, avoid excessive gestures. You see, Communication is not an act or a play. This is not theatrics. So they won't work because you can't sustain them throughout a lifetime. So it does not happen that way. Now, coming on to how do I know what to say? You need to refer to authentic sources of information. That is very important. You should be updated with what is happening. You should, if you're not really fond of reading, you can go for audiobooks, you can go for webinars, you can go for other sorts of maybe documentaries. Anyway, but that source should be authentic, and what you say should be relatable. Many a times, people will say, oh, I just didn't know what to talk about, and the conversation was so awkward. That is because you did not make the other person feel relatable to you know he did not feel comfortable or warm enough to kind of carry forward a conversation after a certain point. And that happened because you did not know. Everybody is leaving traces, you see. When I say, hello, how are you? When I start this conversation, definitely the other person is going to say something, right? You can ask the other person about their interest. Start the conversation with what the other person might be interested in. You can start that topic with that, and the conversation will definitely last, because they will keep on, they will leave certain trails. You just have to follow those trails in the right way, and then you can turn the narrative around out of what you want out of the whole interaction. So you need to have a clarity of thought and expression while doing that, and active listening. Now this is very, very important. Active listening. You need to be an active listener. Let the other person speak first. He will, that will definitely give him a sense of authority, a sense of value. But you will exactly know what is it that the other person wants to hear from you. You kind of have that idea. Now, delivery. So know your audience. As I just said, how will you know your audience if they start speaking before you do, or if you've spoken less and they have spoken about something? You know your audience, right? And you will set the conversation on the kind of a note that your audience is familiar with. So there should be a clarity for gender or purpose. What do you want out of the whole narrative? What is it that you're looking for after the interaction? That is how you shape that whole conversation. Align your hand movements and gestures with what you're saying, right words and intonations. Right now, for right words and intonations, you must have seen people with spouses or girlfriends and boyfriends. If you fight with somebody on text, if you argue with somebody over text, you sometimes don't know how the other person is responding, or what is his tone exactly. you know there's this incident that happened, and my there's this friend that they both were fighting over text, and I was just sitting beside him, and he wanted to kind of wind it up, and he wanted to patch up, and he just said, see, I don't want this argument to carry forward. Can we just leave it? And his partner, she texts, really, question mark. Now we don't know how this really has been said. Is it really, is it, oh really, you don't know because you don't know the tone of the other person. You don't know how this really has been said. So there's this another suggestion for everybody out there. If you're having an argument, I would better suggest you to have a phone call with that person, just so that your intentions are clear and they've been, clearly projected to the other person. You maintain the right pitch, you maintain the right pace at which you're going, and you do it smoothly and effortlessly, and you plan your pauses. See, awkward pauses, they give you away, no doubt about it. If I just people have this tendency of maybe they're looking at somebody, and then they're thinking of it, and then they're looking at them, and there's this awkward pause, and the other person will get uncomfortable, and he will definitely lose a sense of interest in the conversation. Your eye contact, your glances are very important. I think that is where I do not find online webinars so effective, because I can't maintain an eye contact with the other person. So that is another problem. So your eye contact must be very, you must have a very comfortable eye contact. That also helps. Do not keep looking towards the other person all the time. That also doesn't go well. You will come off as arrogant, and you will come off as somebody, who's trying to invoke the other person. You know, now comes humor and an anecdote. See, you can lighten up the conversation by just the right amount of humor. It should be subtle, and there should not be personal attacks or sarcasm in it. Just very relatable sort of a humor. Now, since I know that this is Indian audience, right? So I won't start a joke with maybe two Jews walked into a bar, because we don't really know Jews, right? But if I say two Punjabis walked into a bar, you will be interested in that joke, obviously. An anecdote, now, if I would have talked, about the argument that I was talking of, now if I generalize that, and if I just put it forward like a fact, or like maybe a statement, it does not have that sort of an impact. Now I'll come to this. Anecdote has a narrative. It's a story that you've compressed. So the thing is, emotions are always evoked using stories, and emotions stick. Now, all of you will relate to me that there is one anecdote that your history teacher or your geography teacher shared with you in 7th standard or 6th standard. You might not know what he taught you in that class, but you will remember what anecdote he shared. That is how anecdotes work. That is how stories work. Now, let's take this example of maybe a particular film. Chalo, let's take example of Bajrangi Bhaijaan, for example. Now, you must have watched that film. I think a lot of people watched it. So when Salman Khan is being beaten up by the police, and at the end, when the girl runs over to him, you feel this sense of exhilaration. You feel for it, because you are engrossed in that story, because you find it relatable, because it has made you relate to it via certain emotions. And that's how anecdotes work. If something funny happens, you suddenly feel so comfortable in a certain environment, because you laughed with someone. So it instantly makes you comfortable. So do not go for far-fetched jokes. Do not talk of Jews in front of Jews. Do not talk of Punjabis in front of Jews. Rather talk of Punjabis in front of Punjabis, or which issues are to be talked of with Punjabis for sure, or with Haryanvis. We are very Indians are good in that way, so we are very adaptable in that sense. So you can definitely put personal experiences for reliability. That helps. The other person will instantly find you relatable and reliable, and that is how the conversation will definitely take in. He will take the conversation forward, because he feels open to you, right? 7 C's of communication. Now let's just speed up. I think I'm it is, yeah, 7 C's of communication. Just as I said, you must be correct in what you are sharing. That is where authenticity of knowledge comes in. If you're sharing the right kind of content, if your ideas are based on the right kind of information, they will definitely be reliable. Now, if you quote a certain fact which is not authentic, people will not take you seriously. People will not take your ideas very seriously, and they won't trust it. Coming on to complete. Now, that is where, everything, all of your body must be engaged in communication. I should not just be plainly speaking. My hands should be moving a certain way. I should have a certain gesture. I should have a certain expression, right? So that the other person feels that I am completely involved in this conversation. And that is when the other person will feel involved. Now, see, concrete. This is where purpose comes in. If you know what is the purpose of this interaction, what is it that you want after this interaction, that is how the conversation is going to be concrete. And the other person must have something out of it. Concise. Now, how do I say something in lesser words? How do I compress something without taking the essence of this conversation out of it? Consideration. What is it that the other person wants to hear from you? Courteous. You shouldn't come off as arrogant. You shouldn't come off as rude or overconfident. You must be considerate and courteous about what the other person feels. He is taking out time and he is listening to you, or she is giving out time and she is listening to you. Clear, you must have clarity of thought, or the message won't be taken seriously. Now, let's just speed through the strategies to improve communication. This is sort of a recapitalization. The golden rule to an effective communication is to listen attentively, be active listeners. That will amp up your communication game because you know what the other person wants to hear, and you shape your conversation that way. Don't just speak to listen. People sometimes speak to just reply. You must speak to comprehend what the other person is saying. What is the other person? He's coming from a certain place. She's coming from a certain place. So you must be considerate of that. In any conversation, you must listen carefully to what the other person is saying. Now, never stop the speaker in between and barge the conversation, right? You don't have to interrupt anybody during the conversation. You must be very clear with the words that you're using. And if you do not understand a certain word, please look it up. What is it that the other person means, right? That is when the conversation will be effective. Reading a lot. Now, if you're expected to have a certain amount of knowledge about a certain amount of a subject, a certain sense, a certain type of subject, you must read about it. And those sources must be very, very authentic. Now, practice in front of the mirror, practice with people. Everybody is your stage. You're meeting a group of friends. You see how do you strike the conversation and how does it carry forward, or how the how do you plan that conversation purposely so that you get to a certain sort of a conclusion. Never speak at a noisy place. See, whenever there's noise from all around, the other person will not pay the requisite amount of attention that is required, and you might be a little taken away by all the distraction around. You'll be distracted. No two ways about it. Speaking clearly and properly is very important. Here is where your pronunciation, the use of your vocabulary comes into the picture. Now, I'll give you a little example. If I come late to a meeting and I say, "Oh, I'm really sorry, I'm late," right? And on the other hand, if I'm maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes late to a meeting, and I go and I say, "Thank you for your patience," I'm actually valuing the other person in the second scenario. Thank you for your patience, right? It is, this gesture is filled with so much of gratitude. So, how I respond to a certain situation with a certain, usage of words, that is what makes all the difference. In the first one, while I say sorry, I am late, I'm actually making myself guilty. I'm putting myself at an inferior position, right? And I'm not valuing the other person's time directly. I'm not valuing it. I'm rather feeling sorry about it. So it kind of sets the conversation on a wrong note altogether. Okay. See, selection of words is very, very important. Do not keep half of your thoughts in your mind. Speak. What is it? Just shape it quickly, shape it in the way you know will be received, and that is how you go with it. The pitch, the tone, and never interrupt a conversation. Just as I said, yeah, try to understand the mood of the second party, know your audience. That is very important. That is where active listening comes into the picture. Don't just immediately start with your message, right? You break some ice with warm words. That is where good evening, happy evening, greetings, regards come into the picture. The whole courtesy, this, and just as I talked of it in Seven C's of Communication, that comes in the picture. Eye contact for a desired effect. Just as I said, your idea gets the edge by putting it out. If you won't put it out, it is not out. People won't know it. People don't know what you're thinking, and they will not feel very warm sharing their own ideas with you. So your conversation won't be a very wholesome, a very all comprehensive sort of a conversation if you don't put your ideas out in the right way. If you don't stand for anything, you will fall for everything. That is what conviction means. You need to be authentic with what you're sharing. You need to be very, very confident with what you're sharing, you know. That is where self trust comes in, and that will come with practice, ladies and gentlemen. You need to practice this alone. You need to practice this with people who you trust. Start with people who you trust, and then you can keep on enlarging your circle. Everyone won't speak up, you will speak, and that gives you the edge over everyone else. See, when you start speaking, people are looking for a connection, right? We're all looking for a connection. Who does not want good friends? Who does not want good bosses, good employees? Who does not want good partners? We are all looking for a connection. That is how humans are made, that is how we are designed. So, you, by speaking at the right time in the right way, because you know your audience and you know how to use these words up, you know how to add contour and use your words. Connection, once you build a certain connection, once you are felt relatable by a certain group of people, they will definitely come up to you for anything that they want to. And this connection will take you to places. People get opportunities by networking. And how do we network? We make connections. That is how our circle is enhanced. Yeah, so you're always one well delivered talk away from an absolute explosion. No leaders were made in isolation. Uh, no CEOs were made in isolation. No businesses happened in isolation. No marketing deals happened in isolation. People had to interact, people had to collaborate. And I would not want to collaborate with somebody I don't feel relatable or warm with. I will collaborate with somebody, I have a certain amount of trust with. I feel he's reliable. I feel she's credible. I feel she's the right amount of amicable. And that is when I'll, trust them with my time, with my efforts. The world is your stage, and every hello is a possibility that can be turned into a life altering opportunity. You see, if I don't say hello and I don't wait for the other person, I might miss out on a very good connection. And that very good connection might have given me a great opportunity in future. Who knows? This is how this all happens. Um, do we have any questions? I do have a lot of activities, but they are actually possible in physical vicinity only. So I would love to maybe take questions from our volunteers. If there are any doubts, if there's anything you want to share, please go ahead.
Sure, you can raise your hands if anybody has any doubts.
I'll just stop sharing. Yes. Are you there on social media? Yeah, I'm there on social media as much as everybody else is. Uh, just a second. I'm bad with these things.
So I can share your Instagram account, Miss Sheenam. You can share your
Yes, sure. Should I like do it while this all is happening? I am technically very disabled.
absolutely, absolutely. So I'll do it for you. So you can follow Miss Sheenam Dhingra on Instagram. She has
Mhm.
her username as Sheenam_Dhingra 25.
Yeah,
And
yeah, right.
ma'am, any social media, any YouTube account of yours?
No, nothing of that sort. No, no, no.
Yes, Miss Roma Sharma. Absolutely.
Thanks a lot.
Please.
It was a great experience. Thank you so much, Kavisha. Thank you, Kavisha. Thank you so much. I would also, maybe if we have 5 minutes, I would love if somebody can maybe give a short introduction of themselves, and I can help them spruce it up. I can help them make it a little bit more lively, more attractive. Maybe if somebody is up for that sort of an activity, I would love to do that.
So we have a question from Roma Sharma.
Yes.
Ma'am, you can unmute yourself, please.
Ma'am, the question is, ma'am, when you see the party with whom you are communicating
Mm-hmm.
is not interested in what you are saying, how can you, win the interest of that person, make the person interested in your conversation? How can you, influence the views of the person and, get your work done out? I mean, So how can, if a person looks not, if he says I'm not interested, so how can we convince the person, make the person interested in what we are, trying to communicate, and to
Yeah,
make the
great,
person a part.
question. Great question, Uma. That's a very, very common concern with people. And see, there's something that is where, know your audience comes in the picture. For example, if somebody is not interested in what I am talking to them, you have to start on the note that you know will interest the other person, right? You must have seen all these videos on YouTube and Instagram where ladies, they put like a bottle of Coke in front of a bottle of milk, and they put a straw, and the kid, he's actually drinking milk while he's thinking he's drinking cola, right? You must have come through such videos on Instagram or YouTube, I hope.
Yeah,
That is how you start this, right? You wrap it in the kind of a paper that the other person wants to see. So that's how it happens. Maybe you
thank you,
can,
ma'am.
right, you can start with, okay, so how is your, you will definitely know the other person to an extent that you can start a conversation. And then they will keep leaving trails. We will leave trails. For example, if somebody, if I'm talking to a housewife, I can ask her how her mother-in-law is doing, and I'm up for a party, isn't it? Doesn't it happen like that, right? And she will speak, she will start speaking. Everybody has certain issues that kind of,
Exactly.
you touch their nerve with it, and you can start it on that note, and then you shape the conversation around, and then you come to the point why you
Exactly.
started that. Or
Okay, ma'am.
that can happen, or second thing is, or that can happen by, maybe you don't do it in the same conversation. Maybe you leave that conversation on that very aspect, on that very issue that the other person was interested in, and maybe you can build up. That is where layers come in, right? So maybe you can
Exactly, ma'am.
start it, right? You start it, right?
Okay.
And then maybe in further, in the third or fourth conversation, you can come on to your point.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah. Pleasure, pleasure.
Yeah.
Yes, I had another, somebody raised their hand. Please tell me, Akhil, who is it, and what would they
Yeah,
want to ask?
Hajira Kareem, please ask a question.
Yes.
Hajira.
Yes, it is Hajira Karim. Hi, all. Hi, Sheenam. And thank you so much for a very graceful evening. Actually, it was a very good session. And more than a communication session, the examples you gave us to relate the things which you were telling, that was like, it gave us a connection, and it was useful for us to understand what you were actually going to tell us. The actual feed of that, it came to us, and the content was, yes, we understood it. That is the main thing. And the other thing, the question or the thing which I myself want to understand is, whenever I'm speaking on a topic or a content, I usually go out of topic. Is that okay to talk that way? Or if I'm selecting a topic myself, is it necessarily important to have a speech on only that topic?
Right, right. Firstly, thank you so much. Thank you for appreciating my effort. Second, now coming on to your question, see, you need to plan your content accordingly. Now, I'll give you another anecdote here. You must have heard of the famous leader, Mr. Thomas Jefferson. Now, he was being invited to for a speech, right? So the person said, he said, "Sir, the speech is, you have a 30-minute speech. You have to speak for 30 minutes. When are you available?" So he said, "If it's 30 minutes, give me 2 days and I'll come." "Oh," he said. "Oh, if it would have been 40 minutes, then you would have taken maybe 3 days or 4 days." He said, "No, if it is 40 minutes, then I'll come with you tomorrow evening itself." He said, "Okay." "And if it would have been an hour?" He said, "Then let's go then. We can have it right now." So see, a time constraint is very important. If it is an hour, right, I have the liberty that I can, maybe digress into something else, and I can talk of something else also while I am talking of other things, right? The useful part of the conversation, the juicy part of it. But what if you know that you have a limited amount of time, and there's so much that you want to convey which is aligned with the concept, right? So you can't take that liberty, but you do need to have certain twists and turns in your conversation. That is where, you're not reporting while you're sharing. It should not look like a report. A report is very informative, it is very, very concrete, it is very, very informational, but it is very, very relevant to the topic also. But people usually, they lose their interest by the end of the report, because you don't feel very human, you don't feel connected to it. So for the sake of connection, if you are going out of topic, keep it very crisp and have a purpose out of that as well. While you're going on a road, you do take twists and turns, and you sometimes take u-turns as well. If it is important, take it. If you can do without it, I would rather suggest do without it. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, sure. Definitely, it has answered my question, and thank you so much for replying and your time as well.
Pleasure, pleasure. Thank you so much. I'll share another anecdote for all of you. You see how this is, there's this popular narrative, there's this common code of conduct, and that is, people keep using it like that. Lakir ka fakir kind of a situation. For example, if you meet some of your father's or mother's friends, they will usually say, beta pehchana nahi, or they'll say, अरे बहुत बड़ा हो गया ये. Now, since I am still short, so sometimes people do it. People will mindlessly look at your son or daughter and they'll go, "अरे बहुत बड़ा हो गया ये." So you can maybe reply that, "नहीं मैं तो छोटी रह गई." Why are you saying it? So don't use your words mindlessly. You can add contour to it. It is like Maggie. You eat 100 rupee per plate Maggie as well, which has all sorts of cheese and all sorts of ingredients, and then you have plain Maggie as well, right? So that is how you amp up your communication game. You add the right kind of ingredients, you subtract the wrong kind of ingredients, and you keep on upgrading it, downgrading it accordingly. Right? Is there any other doubts? Yes,
Yes, so we have
Diksha. Yes,
Diksha.
Diksha,
Yeah.
please.
Hi, good evening, ma'am.
Hello, Diksha. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, ma'am.
Great.
Actually, I want to ask that, one, they are my friends. They have me, and they have some common friends, and
Mhm.
those common friends have already told that my nature is like this and that. However, I have tried
Uh-huh.
many times to tell them that whatever you
Uh-huh.
are thinking about me is not true, and but
Mm-hmm.
I think I am not that capable to
Mm-hmm.
make them clear that whatever you have listened about me is wrong. So people have a stereotype whenever they meet me na, just they have already they are having a उनके दिमाग में ना पहले से फिट होता है कि that ये इस तरह
Right,
की है,
right.
and so
Uh-huh.
how to treat मतलब इस चीज को कैसे ठीक करें.
In this very situation, you see, words alone don't work. It is actions that work. So you need to have a lot of time. You need to have a lot of patience in this particular situation, right? Since they have used just words, they don't have actions, right? So the kind of people who've judged you already, right? They have not seen you in that particular situation. That situation was narrated to them in a certain tone, in with a certain intention, with a certain purpose. That narrative was given to them, right? It might be half baked, it might be certain facts might be twisted, certain scenarios might be twisted, right? So they just have words from the other party, while you being a human being in your own self. So you have words, you have your body language, and then you have actions to work upon. If you say a certain thing about yourself and you act that way, right? If you act that way, if your words align those actions, ultimately your actions will be given a priority, and they will be considered more than just empty narratives, right? So there, that is what comes in. If something is fake, it will kind of, while you keep on working on who you are, and while you keep on envisioning yourself as a certain person and you act on that vision, people will eventually realize that, maybe that narrative does not go with your image and the way you react. So what you say will be taken into consideration.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
hope
Thanks a
that
lot.
helps you. Great, thank
I
you.
will surely try this.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Be very, very welcoming, be very, very comforting, and people will definitely, they will invest their trust into you. That is bound to happen. People are looking for connections. You just need to be authentic enough. Just need to be confident enough, and people will definitely, if they find that sort of a connection, if you're willing for that, you will definitely find that connection.
Yes, ma'am. Thanks a lot.
Great, all the best.
So I think we are not having any more questions, and we can end this session now. So I would again like to thank you, Ms. Sheenam, for coming here and giving us such amazing insight into the communication field. And I thank everybody else who has been a part of this amazing training. And very good evening again, and good luck.
I
Thank you.
hope this evening has been happy also, along with being good.
Absolutely, yes.
And
Yeah.
I've had a session after so long. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And I've been so, that really thrilled me. And I was so happy that people are asking questions. That means that they were interested all throughout the session. And I hope they found something relatable and they can use all these tips. And I would love to interact more with you. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you
Yes.
so much. I'm getting so many comments. Thank you so much, guys. That is very, very nice and very considerate of you. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. You can follow Miss Sheenam at Sheenam_Dhingra25. Uh, okay. Bye bye.
Yeah, I would love to interact with everybody. Thank you. Bye bye.
I